I just feel like this is our calling, guys.
Yep.
I know that we are avid TTRPG players, but today, du fromage.
I feel like there's gotta be some TTRPG that has to do with cheese. Oh God.
TTRPGs. TTRPGs! How have we... At the table
Cole
is
Grant.
dead. TTRPGs.
Cole Grant. Hello, and thanks for tuning in to At the Table, a cheese-only TTRPG podcast. Tonight, as always, we have our incredible hosts, CJ.
Hi, I'm CJ.
Jess.
I'm Jess.
And myself, Sam. We are but simple cheese molds, beseeching you to talk about more TTRPGs. Since it's been a little while since we've recorded, there's been some stuff that we've been doing, so I thought we'd do a little catch up and see what we've been doing. I will go first if that's okay.
Please.
I've been playing some home games. I've been playing Beyond the Witchlight, and the GM for that game has outdone themselves. He made like loads of posters, like themed in the carnival. He like carnivaled up the room. So we came in and there was like carnival posters. He handed us physical tickets as part of the thing. Without spoiling too much, you need to get fairy wings. So we each got fairy wings with our character's first initial. So there was a lot of that. And he also animated some of the NPCs using like some basic animation. And so we just had like a screen facing us. I'll have to take a photo in the next game. And some of them are just really creepy and unnerving. And he did an incredible job, considering he was messaging me for weeks before, like, I'm really nervous. You know, this hasn't gone well with like other groups I've run it with. And it was superb. Like set dressing, running the game, remembering everything. It was incredible. And I'm playing a wizard who's a boy who's pretending to be an old man. So I'm just doing an old man crotchety voice, and no one is... You know what my RP level's like. No one can buy into my bullshit, so everyone's calling me out on it, which is great because that's part of the bit. So that's been really fun.
Worked in a pre-made bit. I like that.
Yeah. I was because he was there like, oh yeah, you're all kids and then it's going to be a time jump, but not too long. And I was like, I really want to play an old man wizard, but I want it to fit. So I was like, I'll just make this kid like have drunk a potion or done something dumb to just turn into an old man so people respect him more. But he's just a kid pretending to be an old man.
Yes.
Incredible.
Chef's kiss.
Yes.
We all attempted to play Lancer together.
We did!
And then Foundry broke in profound and interesting ways.
Yes, it did!
And I had done all my prep on Foundry, and then I was at a loss. I was just like, oh my God. Because I tried to not over-prep, because I was like, God, this is going to spin me in circles. But I just put so many things on Foundry because I was just having a lot of fun. But then Foundry broke, and then I was I was just staring at the screen like, But luckily, you're all so wonderful that you managed to carry through some roleplay, and we even introduced CJ and Lucy into some future missions, which are going to pay off. And everyone was just really good, and we made it work.
Tex-Mex.
So Tex-Mex, because everyone decided to do Texan accents.
I don't know what it is about, like, Max that makes me want to go Texan, but everyone seemed to have the same thing. Like, everybody knew that was the assignment. And I'm so excited to see part 2. But I think, Jordan's character was just like anime to the hilt, full anime.
Yeah.
And then James is like, my character is also from Texas. I'm like, oh fuck.
What I really like about Jordan is that
Duchess from Texas.
Jordan will just be like, I would like to play this anime character, and then just make it work for the system. So he was just playing like a Gurren Lagann character, and just everything was just going along on. And I was there like, I'm here for it. Thank you very much for playing. And yeah.
I mean, if you're going to do it, Mech is the place to do it.
Yeah, right?
Mech is too big and too stupid not to be compatible with the full anime universe. And let's be fair, anime is like the father of the mech stereotype and tropes and all of the elements that come together in it. So yes!
It's up there on Papa's forbidden manga shelf of...
A good callback. A solid callback.
How would I have forgotten that? How would I... Masterful. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
So I'm gonna, but I was a little bit downhearted because I was just stuck. But it's a system that I haven't run for people very often, unlike D&D, which I've been playing for like 10 years. So I can just do stuff off the back. So I'm gonna be remaking that for all of us to play online, and then a couple of my local friends, they're just free for an evening. So I'm gonna be running an in-person Lancer game, which I will be running Laurie O'Connell's Sleeping Above a Stolen Crown finally. So I'm excited to do that. And yeah, I think that's most of my stuff. Other than that, we've been playing Dragonlance and we're doing hex crawls.
Hex crawl.
Yeah, that's all my stuff.
It's stressful. It's surprisingly stressful for a hex crawl.
It is very stressful.
Oh, what? Was this group ever going to do simplicity? I don't think that's in our repertoire.
No. We saw running water with
fuck.
bones in it and spent like 15 minutes going, are these bones significant? No, my friends, it was flavor text.
Oh, sweet flavor text that we had misunderstood to the nth degree, to the point where we are all so obsessed with these goddamn bones.
Can I roll some investigation text and some investigation checks on this flavor text, please? Thank you.
There was just a part of me that was like, we'd just been attacked by the 3 Dragonel. We've been walking around like, okay, something bad could happen at any point. Fantastic. Good to know. How many spell slots do I want to waste on these fucking bones that I believe are at the bottom of the river, but that Jordan clearly said were floating in the river, and as such, oh god, that moment of realization where you're like, no, I have imagined it wrong, but
shoot.
I can just imagine Jordan looking at this like 2-sentence bit of text where it's there like, this is just something interesting for them to see. Moving on, and we're all there like, motherfucking what are these bones?
Since you rolled well on your perception check, there's some bones at the bottom of the river. Excuse me, everyone, there's bones at the bottom of the river. Oh, fuck, there's bones at the bottom of the river?
How old are they? Where do they come from? Are the fish responsible? We must find out more.
My favorite thing was the discussion that you had with the fish, trying to figure out if the fish killed the bodies when, unless they were very, very old, very... very magical fish. It would not have been those fish.
I totally forgot about the old, and I was just like, there's just some bones at the bottom. I wonder if these are like, magic like piranha or something.
Yeah.
And the speech of beast and leaf doesn't allow the animals to talk back to you, so I'm trying to come up with like a braille system, but for like fish, in terms of communicado. I don't know, like ASL, but for F. SL. I don't know where that
Meanwhile,
was going.
I'm being a tit in the chat and just being like, Dory speaking whale.
I always enjoy our chat because 2 people are having a very serious scene and then we'll just be like fucking shit posting real time at them, and then they're just like focusing on the chat like, hey, actually fuck you guys.
Yeah, the thing to not do in our campaign if you're having a serious scene is look at the chat.
I'm wondering if like anybody else who is listening and who managed to get past the cheese section of the podcast, if like anyone else has games where that's a thing and the chat in like Discord or Zoom or however you do it provides some really fucking weird comic relief up the side while real RP is happening. Like
there was and I couldn't even quote it at this point, but there was a TikTok to this exact like yeah, this exact commentary, which was like two characters having a serious character conversation, and it was some quote from something, and then in the back it was like, it wasn't, but it was basically like the Dr. Seuss on the recorder,
Well,
was the vibe. So
I am glad that we have lived up to the exact stereotype of what a typical party gets up to.
Yep.
When playing over the streaming services.
It's
good
shit.
time. Well, so we fucked up for a bit, but then yeah, Jordan has left us in suspense for another week. Oh,
Until tomorrow.
Yes.
oh yeah,
it
it's
is.
tomorrow.
It is our tomorrow.
Our tomorrow, today. No, that's gonna be exciting. I'm very excited. Whoop, whoop.
CJ, what have you been up to?
Yeah, a lot and also not a lot. I went to a lovely LARP by the company iLARP called Second Breakfast, where we all just pretended to be hobbits for a weekend,
Woohoo!
which was great. In addition to that, I've done my normal stuff. We've been doing Scion the Coming Storm on Onyx Path, which is every other Tuesday at 11 p.m. UTC. That one's getting a little weird in a good way because my character personally, and only my character, was brought across from another campaign. But because Scion is about gods and demigods, it's not just like, oh yeah, that happened and then this happened. No, Ro was removed from that reality and put in this reality. And they're a Scion of the Morrigan, so they are basically just chaos and fate incarnate.
Yes.
And they're losing it a little bit, but they're working on it. Their older version, the first version, Proto-Ro, as I call them, I just decided, like, aesthetically, stylistically, they were, like, an early 2000s goth. Like, I have...
Nice.
I have, like, a fishnet from the shoulders up hoodie and, like, dark eyeliner, but the second iteration of Ro isn't like that. They're, like, a little more put together. And I just did a flashback scene for this show of the old Ro, and then had to like wipe off my makeup and like redo it in like the 30-minute call time because we had recorded beforehand to be like old Ro, but then like old Ro is getting all of these visions, or new Ro is getting visions of all the old Ros, so they just like had like a little moment. One of the other party members like found them in the bathroom like trying to put more eyeliner on and like cutting a slit in their eyebrow because the old Ro had that. And once again the chat was like, I see we have an MCR emo joining the chat. It's getting a little intense. I feel like this is on the Onyx Path. I feel like maybe we're 4 or 5 episodes to the end of the arc and things are going to get real. So that one is particularly exciting at the moment. And the other one that's particularly exciting at the moment is Chalice, which is a Through the Breach horror homebrew. It's a whole world they've created on the initiative order. And gosh, it's just spooky already. It's every third Wednesday that we're in it. What it is it's our group one Wednesday, next Wednesday is another group, and then it's a Wednesday off. So every third Wednesday is our group, and I've been in 2 episodes so far, and it's already spooky. We found a face in a bag. Just a face.
What? No head, just face. Just
as in, the face had been removed.
Oh no!
We burnt the bag.
Ugh.
We definitely burnt the bag. It's not gonna go well, I don't think.
The way you said that, like, definitely burnt the bag. It's like when you forget to turn the iron on, or like the hob off, and you're like, did I add? And you go back and I have.
I've definitely burnt the bag. I don't trust it, but I was gonna throw it overboard because right now we're on like a smuggling riverboat. So I was gonna throw it overboard, and another player's character, Jules was like, no, we're burning it, and Kai was like, yeah, we're burning it. That's a great idea. So they burnt it. So that's the horror homebrew that's going on. Got a lot of other stuff in the works. At some point on Ink and Lyre, we're going to have Through the Breach No Man's Land, which we have been recording for some time, but have not yet produced on a stream yet. And Vampire the Masquerade Dark Ages Alimene Fallen Angels is going to be on the Beloved Nerds mid-August, give or take. We did have to skip one of our recordings, so we're gonna maybe push the start back a little just so we've got some recordings in the bank, because we have some very amazing, talented cast members, and because they're amazing and talented, they are very busy all of the time. So best to, bank a few before we start. But these are all things coming up. There's also a Through the Breach campaign that I personally have been writing with my friend Tessa. but I'm super excited. But I don't have more information for you all on that just yet, and I am hoping that by next podcast I will.
Woohoo!
So, that's the rundown.
That's a lot.
Mostly as quickly as possible, except for the little rambles about Scion and Chalice, because right now the story is really coming to points that are very engaging at the moment. So that's right now, that's my brain 24/7, except when it's through the breach, which is the rest of the time. So that's my weeks.
Ooh,
yes,
awesome.
weeks. Those are my weeks. That doesn't sound right either. Hey Jess, what have you been up to?
Nothing that sounds right either, to be honest. So yeah, it has been, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, it is con season. My god, is it con season. Everyone is ramping up to head to Gen Con or Dragon Con or EGX or Insomnia's coming up soon, and then we've got MCM coming up too, and a whole bunch of things have opened up in the live space, and so I am busy with stuff I cannot talk about, which is really exciting to say on a podcast about talking about stuff, which is real nice. I can't say anything yet, but I will be able to soon, which will be really, really nice. What I can say is that over the last week I've been delving into just a whole bunch of other systems to just do some research and sort of expand knowledge about people in the industry and things like that. And I've come across a really lovely creator who I think everybody will love, called Connor Alexander, who is the creator of Coyote and Crow. They have just recently fully backed the Wolves expansion for Coyote and Crow. It's got 7 days left on the Kickstarter as of today, the day of recording, and I thoroughly recommend that if you enjoy Coyote and Crow, you go and take a look at that. We'll be working with 3 Black Halflings to produce a podcast episode with Connor in the near future, where we talk about more stuff like that. But Connor has just, I don't know, he's just bowled me over with how lovely and genuine and kind he is. And so I just wanted to give him a little bit of love and attention because I think he's fantastic. And yeah, he's created a really incredible system, and it uplifts an entire community that hasn't really had the spotlight on it before. So that is the Indigenous community. And so, yeah, I would happily recommend you guys go and check that out. I don't quite know what I can and can't say I am working on at the moment. So I'm going to go with the path of safety and boringness and not say anything right now. But maybe in a couple of weeks I'll be able to say something more when stuff is announced. But what I will be working on in the next few weeks is I'm gonna try and do my first proper cosplay as something as of yet to be determined, because I'm gonna need to make an appearance and as me and as of myself. So that'll be something. What I'm currently thinking of painting myself green, because that never ends badly. And then whacking on a bunch of armor, assuming that is the character I go for. But I think I will go as the character I will play. And yeah, it's gonna be fun. Whatever nonsense I end up creating will be entirely exciting. So yeah, if anybody...
I personally think I'm hotter when I'm green, so you may discover some things about yourself that you didn't know.
Oh, I watched the Ginny D video recently on her, the orc barbarian she plays, who I've forgotten the name of, and I was the reason I forgot the name of because I was like, "Mommy, yes, hello." That's.
Right after the original art prior to the comics being released that Carrie Peach did of Taco and Loop, and they're sort of from the Adventure Zone. They're sort of a teal kind of color, and I hand mixed my own airbrush paint so that I could cosplay Taco and Loop. And when I put on my Loop costume, I was like, I am so much hotter when I am teal. What is this? So maybe it's just the confidence that you get by, like, embodying Loop.
Yeah.
So, colors affect your heat? Like the amount of heat you take in?
No, like...
Oh, like hotter.
Yeah.
Like fitter hotter, right.
As in, like, I look in the mirror and I'm like, why can I not be teal all of the time?
I understand now. I totally understand. Right, got you.
I love you,
100%.
Jess.
No, don't love me for my idiocy. That just makes me more idiot.
If I painted myself green, I'd look like one of those sludge heads from, I think, Spirited Away. So I don't think that's really a thing that I could go for.
I will say, on the topic of being warm, seal your paint. I have seen multiple videos about if you do any body paint, and I have tried it before D&D in a castle. I did sort of that really fun ombre black hand, long nails effect, and some on the face as well. And it stayed. The Snazaroo stuff, body paint stayed. Snazaroo's fine if you seal it. So either powder or spray.
I used hairspray because I didn't have anything else, and
it's not a bad like workaround actually. I have more than once in my life put on makeup, realized I had nothing to seal it with, and closed my eyes and just sprayed hairspray directly at my face because who needs to breathe? But I'm just gonna say, all of you folks, all you listeners cosplaying your D&D OCs that are orcs and other things, for the love of God, seal your makeup. I was a cosplayer doing Homestuck. That is it. That is all.
Oh my God. So that was a lot of grey paint going everywhere, I imagine.
I will say honestly, and luckily I had discovered by word of mouth this thing called sealing your paint. But there was a time where in the T's and C's for hotels, convention center, hotel rooms, it was, if, do not leave grey in the bathtub. If you leave grey on our towels or our sheets, you will not be getting your deposit back.
Oh my God.
It got bad. These were dark times.
They were pens in bath, bad times.
Pens in bath?
That was I think that was the joke of like how to get the grey on your skin. People were using like black markers and just having a bath.
No. I've
never heard that, but I believe that someone tried it. I do believe that. I've never heard that until this day.
I will cite my source as Sarah Z on YouTube for where the meme has originated from. But yes, that was, I think, merely a meme, and people weren't actually doing that. But I did hear the hotel thing where people were like,
we actually had to like sign waivers because the hotel was like, I'm sick of having to, replace our sheets every convention.
So I recently watched the Internet Historian's Rainforest and DashCon, the videos that he's done on both of those events. And I have no problem believing that when a convention rolls into town with a particular contingent in tow, that they just start writing up a list of things that they will not allow.
I have the unique experience of having worked in the hospitality industry and worked in cons, so I've seen it from both sides.
Oh no. Who would you say like deals it out worse? Like, because I imagine that the cons every year bring something that the hotels aren't expecting.
Yeah. Well, I would say that, and this is not by fault of their own. I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna start a war, but the worst is anime because of the variety of different types of like costuming and creatures and body paint colors and so on. So and it is a wide variety of age as well. And I will say that cosplay at anime conventions is so much more common than like a cosplay at, for example, a game convention. It happens, but not at it's almost, I mean, you're able to go to an anime convention, enjoy yourself, not cosplay, but it is part of the experience in some ways. I would say more like at many conventions, a good number, like at least 50%, I would say, are probably cosplaying. Whereas if you go to Gen Con, I think I would put the cosplay level at like 15%. You get some cool cosplays, you get to see cool things, but if you have a body paint incident, it's probably one or two versus like if you have a show or a webcomic or something like Homestuck, where it suddenly becomes a zeitgeist, it suddenly becomes important to a community that is heavily reliant on cosplay, everyone's showing up great, but not everybody is equipped with the knowledge on how to do that without rubbing it all over your expensive upholstery.
Oh.
So, it's,
So my plan with painting myself green, because initially I was thinking like, I can't do that in a hotel room. That'd be really bad. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it and leaving a mess. That's the kind of person I am in a hotel. Like I respect a travel lodge. That's just who I am.
Bring black towels and
the,
makeup wipes and you're good.
If I have recently done my hair is dyed jet black, I will bring a black towel because I feel bad them having to, God knows what else has gone on those towels, but in my head I'm like, I don't want to make any more mess. That's who I am. I can't do it in the hotel. Luckily, the cosplay event that we're going to is nearby, so I will need to get on the tube.
Destroy your home.
No, I can destroy my home, no problem. I have no problem with that. Like I will set things up. We will turn this place into Dexter's lab, like if need be. Not Dexter's lab, the lab from Dexter where he murders people and there's plastic everywhere. That's a different show. It's a very different show. Omelette du fromage, but so I can do that. It's getting on the tube in full body paint in what promises to be a relatively hot environment. I don't know how well that will turn out.
I was just going to say, it would not be the weirdest thing anyone in London's seen that day.
No, absolutely not.
Hotness, yeah.
Hotness.
To bring this full circle, hotness in the literal sense, potentially an issue. I have ridden the New York subway in full cosplay. And let me say, nobody blinked.
No.
I have heard legends of this place, and people just straightforward do not observe others. No. That is for their safety and yours.
No, there is. I once watched a man on the New York subway look at another woman dead in the eyes for like 15 minutes, like while we were on like traveling. I can't remember where we were going. Terrifying. But he was just like leant over looking at her dead in the face, and she was just staring back, and the two of them like they were like locked in like a staring contest, and the whole of the carriage was watching them. And then just like a bunch of punks got on at the back end. Nobody gave a shit. We were just watching this staring contest happen. It was amazing. That's the dynamic of the subway.
A very young CJ went to uni in New York, and I almost got run over by a bicyclist, and we both started swearing at each other, but neither of us stopped going the way that we were going because we were too busy, and we had to keep getting where we were going, but we did still want to swear at each other. And I think if nothing exemplifies New York more than that, perhaps.
Oh, man. So, cons in New York, I imagine, are probably on another level of just people turning up with the wildest shit attached to them, glued on,
not the weirdest place. I've been to New York Anime Fest. I've been to a couple good places, good cons, but you're still looking at the bigger cons for the most, wildly outlandish things. Dragon Con, San Diego Comic Con, things like that. So
I'm excited.
I'm going to
see
Dragon Con this year.
Are you?
Yes.
When is it?
It is the beginning of September. I think it's Labor Day weekend. So like the first weekend in September or something like that. I happen to have an eternal membership, so I'm trying to make use of it.
Ooh, very fancy. Very nice.
I can't justify going to both cons in a year because I don't have a paycheck like that. But my favorite American cons are Dragon Con and Gen Con, so I've promised myself, unless there's a year that I can't do it, I'm just going to alternate.
Nice.
So this year's a Dragon Con, last year was a Gen Con.
What is the main difference, or are they pretty much the same?
They're very different, actually.
Oh.
It's time for a dissertation. No, I won't. But Gen Con is very board game and tabletop game focused. Dragon Con is a generic convention. Some people, it's really hard to say. It's a nerd convention. So you have everything. You've got comic book fans, you've got anime fans, you've got tabletop RPG fans, and the panels and the programming reflect that. I went to a panel once that was about mental health and mental illness in like comics. That was run by someone who was doing their PhD dissertation
cool.
on something similar. So it also just wasn't like some Yahoo having ideas about Batman, which is fine too. Because that's me. I'm just some Yahoo that has ideas about Batman. But they get really good programming. I went to that is where I first learned how to work with Warbler. I went to a Warbler workshop at DragonCon once. It is
nice.
a variety. You can, I think they run some like small time like convention type LARPs there. They do, you can sign up for games like tabletops, you can go play board games, so it's everything. Whereas Gen Con is board games primarily and tabletop, those two. And then there's a little side LARP thing that's like, it's got some traction. But yeah, DragonCon is the most generic nerd convention I've ever been to, but in a way it's really nice because you can kind of find whatever you're looking. I went to sing-along pub song, like sing-along for Lord of the Rings songs at one point. Like, it's everything. So that's what's really nice about it. And they've got quite a significant dealer's room as well. Gen Con does as well, but is obviously very board game focused. So I go there to get my new games and you know, try new games like UK Games Expo. But then Dragon Con, their dealer's room is just all kinds of stuff, like just treasures.
I'm going back through some of the galleries, and like they had wrestling. Shatner was there.
They get some really big names as well, just because it's one of the bigger conventions. Like San Diego Comic-Con is, I would say, the biggest on the West Coast by far, and probably the biggest in the country. But Dragon Con holds its own. I went to a Torchwood panel there at one point, and I got to see like half the cast of Torchwood just like cash just in this panel.
Cool.
Amazing.
So yeah, DragonCon is baller.
I've been flicking through the guest list, and there's a load of people from Eureka, so I've been pulling faces on the camera. I'm like, oh, from Eureka.
Yeah, they always get good guests. Gen Con is the place to be for tabletop and board games. I would say that Dragon Con is the place to be for nerds, just in general. If you like anime and to some extent comics, if you can handle the absolute sea of people, San Diego Comic-Con is worth at least one go. But San Diego Comic-Con is like a pandemic's nightmare, or a pandemic's like wet dream. Is San Diego Comic-Con. It's just a sea of people everywhere, and it spreads out into the street, and they have really cool pop-up stuff, like in the Gaslamp district and some areas around there where people, for example, when I went to San Diego Comic-Con, I went to a Star Trek exhibit with like a little place you could take photos and stuff, because Star Trek Discovery was just about to come out.
Oh, nice.
And I won a Roku for my Spock cosplay. But it was this year, I think they had, because the Haunted Mansion movie is coming out, they had a Doom buggy and they were giving rides on it, like a rickshaw sort of Doom buggy. So it is very fun. It is very cool. It is worth going once, but it is also very overwhelming because it is just... I think that there are less people at Dragon Con, but there's still a lot, but it distributes the people very well, because it's not just nuts. So, you know, I did my SDCC, I had a good time. I can't say whether or not I'll go back, but I'll regularly go back to Dragon Con because the way the different hotels in the area are set up around the convention center, it distributes, in most areas, it distributes people very well.
Nice.
You get a couple of bottlenecks. Don't go anywhere near the hotel bars anytime after like 2 p.m. Outside of that, and not like in a people are rowdy, but in it bottlenecks horrendously.
Yeah,
like,
I can imagine.
Outside of that, it's I don't know. I just have to say, I know it's a big ask, especially as a lot of our listeners are, you know, across the pond here, but it's worth it. Gen Con is worth it at least once. Dragon Con's worth it at least once.
They sound it. I think the closest we've got coming up soon is London Comic Con, and then there's Dragon Meet, which is comparatively tiny.
Smaller, but
much smaller. And then up and down here there's not none that really come to mind. Again, UK Games Expo is the biggest, but that's been and gone this year.
UK Games Expo is similar to Gen Con. I mean, Gen Con has a bit more, but really it is the lateral similarity on this side.
That's cool.
I would say.
That's nice to know. I think like if you've got someone who's been to both and can compare, like that's a really nice indicator as to whether you would enjoy it over there. So that's good. So no, I'm excited. I'm excited for to see what happens at all of con season this year and what comes out, and then also for it to end.
Yes,
it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people and a lot of socializing a lot of the time.
I'm so excited that, and I'm talking now over the last like decade, but that TTRPGs have taken off more at conventions because like, I'd say 6 or 7 years ago, I was running like, what is Dungeons and Dragons? A panel at conventions.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit! How far it has come! Wow.
Yeah. I ran. The first time I ran that was at Honolulu Comic Con. So.
My God, when was that? What was that?
And that had to have been like 2016 at the latest.
Oh my God!
Wow.
That actually gives you an idea of how much D&D has exploded in popularity over the last couple of years. I say couple of years, 9 years, but it's still
a lot of people that came to that panel, I will say, were like someone who was into it trying to explain to their friends why it was cool. So it's not like it was people going, what's Dungeons and Dragons? But it was sort of like that initial momentum.
God.
There's a difference between like explaining what is Dungeons and Dragons and like, oh, I've seen people play it on TV, and you going, actually, this is what it is like and what it can be like, you know, kind of broadening it out. Wow.
Yeah, I think now I'm gonna have to look it up. I think Critical Role was in its early years.
Yeah, Geek and Sundry had only just gotten them up in 2014.
Yeah,
I want to say.
So they didn't have quite the momentum, but it had some movement already. So you know.
And then Stranger Things came along.
And then Stranger Things really off. I think it was a combination of the two, like really, but yeah, the early years on Geek and Sundry, it had its loyal fandom, but then it just shot up for whatever reason. So yeah, it was one of those things where some people had been exposed to it by that, some people had played it, some people had friends that were like, you have to know how to do this, is so cool, you know. So I started running what is Dungeons and Dragons, and the whole description was like, you could still come to this even if you know what Dungeons and Dragons is. So
we should definitely do an episode like as a con guide for people who haven't been before.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
I did realize I'd been talking about cons for a minute, but I can I mean, especially the American side of things. I've only been to a few over here, but
I've only ever been to a few conventions. One is where I met Becky. We were dressed as characters from Firefly.
Nerds.
And then we were like, hey, let's text each other 5 years later, and then stuff has developed. But yeah, so my knowledge isn't great, but it's been wonderful like listening to you like go through how cons and TTRPGs like have integrated, and especially with cosplays running aside, you know, it's not an exclusionary space. All those things can run interlinked and be part.
Yeah, I have a bit of a list of cons that I've been to. Some of them don't even exist anymore. So perhaps we will do a show on that one day.
I would like that.
In the same way that Sam got to do the Lancer dump, I would like a con dump of all of your information, and I'm just going to ask you questions, not about cheese, regarding the cons. And how everything sort of works and ranks and like opinions and controversies and all sorts. And I think that will be fun.
Yeah, I've got plenty of that. So let's go, but not today. Unless that's just, you know, at this point we've talked about it long enough.
Seamless segue into the main section of what we...
Well, thank you.
Sorry,
thank you for that narration, Jess.
I was...
A few moments later.
Oh, the actual topic of today has actually completely vacated my mind.
We are talking about actual plays.
We are. There we go.
To run an actual play.
Oh my God, an actual play?
So
that's definitely not a thing I do like 7 times a freaking week.
No, they're not dancing at all. Like, dancing is not happening right now on this podcast, because
To be
that's
fair.
a point of professionalism here.
Right. I only run one twice, to be fair, so most of the time I just sit around and let someone else do the work.
I was thinking, because you both have like collective knowledge of not only running some but also participating. I think having that like breadth of knowledge would be really useful. So because we've had a wee break where we've refreshed, recharged, and done different things, and so I thought there was some discussion about actual play and professionals on Twitter. Sorry, on Zeta.
Stop. Take that back. Take it back.
It's on Twitter. It's the bird. I'm so sorry. And that discussion sounds really charged, and I actually don't know that much about actual plays other than I've been on one, and I kind of want to like, and I'm gonna put forward a half-baked dumb idea of an actual play, right? Okay, because I feel people do this a lot. They're like, I could do an actual play, and then I want you to like tear into it or just like elaborate on what I would need to do. And I will say from the off, I don't think this is a good idea. It's not a good idea. I think it's going to be way too complex, and there's a lot of stuff to like handle. But but it's the kind of thing that I hear from people all the time going, I could do this.
Right. You've told me this is theoretical. You've told us this is theoretical, and I'm about to make notes. So let's see what you got.
Let's do it.
The idea is an actual play using Lancer in a far future British setting, using hosts who are experts in fields where they can do things. That sounds very vague, but what I'm thinking of is like, it's Britain now, but like ramped up to like 12, which it does feel like that is what Britain is at the moment. And then you are Lancers doing good in that setting, undoing things and making better, using experts from fields that you're interacting with whilst they are in big mechs and beating shit up.
So you'd want to bring in people from the real world who are experts in biology or chemistry or something, or transport or something like that.
Transport, geopolitics, okay. Ecology, like art, performance, people who are in minority spaces, people who run stuff to like house unhoused people. And just hop in and live the fantasy of, we could do this if we jumped in giant mechs or we rolled played, and what could we do in this setting to slowly unpick this setting. So this is the big dumb idea, okay? I can already hear people like heckling their backs like, God, that's a thorny issue.
It's a good idea. It's a solid idea.
So cerebral.
Yeah.
But I think there's an audience for that. I think the biggest thing about actual plays right now is that a lot of things don't have their own niche. And so they split audience and attention from a lot of different channels, because there's a lot of people doing a really good job at what they do. But it's a saturated market. Massively. So I think one thing that you have already with that idea is that you have a niche, you have a specific audience and a specific people you'd market that to, and who would be interested in that kind of thing. And so you're already a step ahead than a lot of situations. Now, a lot of people who just do actual plays are just doing it because it's fun and they want to. And if they get the audience, great. And if they don't, also fine, because they're playing a game with friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you do have an advantage that you have, because it's so cerebral. It's niche, but because you'd want to bring people who actually know what they're talking about, people would be interested to tune in, I think, because they'd want to hear what, an expert in city planning would do if given the reins of roleplay.
Yeah, exactly. And I can just feel it's coming from a place in me, and this was me going to Norwich Pride, where I had a wonderful time and saw beautiful people. I was just feeling very frustrated that I can't do things. But if, I had all the powers of like a Lancer and I could do things with like more agency, we could get shit done. And I just think that would be an interesting space for people to hop on and either like just role play or just like talk through what the issues are and just be like, yep, this is what happens in, Nu Avalon or whatever bullshit term I named the
Nu Avalon.
I wanted to make it as like sound as like as wanky like rule Britannia like gammon as possible for people who are living in this setting to go, this is too much. I need to grip onto the reins. So number one, niche. It's a unique spin on a pretty popular TTRPG system, which does have a quite like, I would say, ardent fan base. Anytime there's any Lancer actual plays, I see all of the Lancer Twitters just light up and they just go, look at this, look at this, look at this. Because, they're doing unique and interesting things and it's like a really supportive group. So yes, number one, find a niche. Number two, go on, Jess.
I was going to say number two would be accessibility, which you've also covered as well. You're using a bunch of people who may or may not be or have ever played a TTRPG before. If you're saying, come on in, play this, raise awareness for what it is that you do, and also let's take a look at a future where we put you in the same room as all of these incredible people, and what world can you build with your amazing skills. But the only thing is you have to learn how to play this from the ground up. So you're not just you're not just teaching them, you're also helping a brand new audience as well who may not be familiar with Lancer. You're allowing them to come in from the very beginning and go, okay, this is how this works. All right, fantastic. And then they're learning too. So you've got accessibility there, which is nice. So that works.
I was also thinking in terms of accessibility, I've noticed a lot of people who love actual plays and love the people who are on them get really intimidated by the size and length of the actual plays.
Yeah. So
I have recently found a actual play podcast where they break up their recording sessions into 40-minute chunks and they pop those out as episodes. And I found a lot of people going, I could do that for 40 minutes. Like 40 minutes is a dog walk. 40 minutes is like cooking.
Yep.
And that is Wing Women, who are running the Night Witches TTRPG, which slaps. And they're very friendly and they tweeted me back. So they're my best friends. So there you go.
Dungeons and Daddies is another really good example of that. I think they only run like 30-minute episodes, or they can go as short as 15 in some cases. And that makes it much more easy to digest, pick up, come back in, leave. However, you're not dealing with people who are in the TTRPG industry full time. So you don't have them forever. You have them potentially for a set number of months. So you would need maybe like 10 weeks or something like that, or 4 weeks, depending on what other commitments they have. Scheduling people who work in the real world
sucks.
Oh my god, it sucks. It is so difficult trying to get people to come together at a certain point every single week for a set number of weeks, because life happens, and when life happens, you just have to work around it. And then that can throw your story into a loop, and it can knock the narrative track that you wanted to go into. With Lancer being so heavily reliant on Foundry, for example, it will maybe mean that you can't do the thing that you needed to do and you will have to improvise around it. So that's
the channels that I work with primarily, we do one of two things, because none of these channels make enough money to support their performers full time. So everyone has a different job.
Yep.
The two ways and the pros and cons associated with that. One is to pre-record everything and either stream or podcast it. There are pros and cons. I'm a big fan of live. I like what happens live. I like some of the, if you can get your cast to focus to a certain extent, because sometimes when it's goofy in a fun way, it's good. You just have to know when to come back to what's going on so that you're not off on a 30-minute tangent while the audience is watching. But live is also good because you can have that immediate feedback from the audience.
Yeah.
And that's hard to duplicate. However, I know some, I've been on some streams, and I also know some successful streams that do pre-record, and how they mitigate that lack of interaction is that most of the cast, if they can, still shows up to the chat when it's streaming and interacts with the chat, and actually has more time to interact with the chat because they're not also playing a game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there are pros and cons to that. Some streams have had a lot of success doing that because the level of professionalism you can put forward if you pre-record and you have the time to edit an episode if you need to is different. So it also depends on the group, depends on the people, depends on the comfort level, and how they are with improv and how they are with going off the cuff and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of positives to recording, pre-recording, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite thing. It's a personal preference, but I have yielded to that many times, mostly because I work with, as I said earlier in the episode, a lot of lovely, talented people who are very, very, very busy. So what can you do? That's one of the biggest ways to work around. The other way that one of the ones that I'm currently producing will operate, it is pre-recorded now. That was by popular vote, majority vote. But the other thing is that if you cannot make an episode, it is the storyteller's decision whether or not your character is needed for that episode. If your character is not needed for that episode, the episode goes ahead without you. If the character is not needed for that episode, then at that point, or if your character is needed for that episode, at that point, then it is postponed until next time. So we have had now a situation, because again, pin the tail on the, working millennial, where last session was cancelled because it became kind of a snowball effect where a lot of people had things happening, and some of those people really needed to be in on the present storyline, so we couldn't do without it. But the session before, someone couldn't make it, and it made perfect sense for their character not to be there, and it didn't affect the story at all, and so we just went on without them. And that does rely on the campaign as well, because some campaigns are heavily reliant on everyone being there all the time, whereas other ones, whether it is the campaign structure or the characters themselves, it makes sense for them to disappear for an episode and it's not weird. So those are the two best ways we've worked around it.
You can sort of see how that affects an actual play when you see when Ashley Johnson wasn't there for a lot of the Crit Role episodes when she was, working and pulling in that sweet wage. But with Pike having to go off constantly and sort of not planeswalk, what am I saying? Astral project in and just be like, and now I'm here, and now I'm not, and now I'm here, and it disrupted the flow of that story so much. And I remember there was an interview with Matt saying the mental gymnastics of having to have a sort of storyline prepared where she could make it and a storyline where she couldn't. You're double preparing. So it's a lot of work if you can't necessarily commit during that time, but you can make it worth it.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things too. So the one that we do this with is a vampire campaign. And some of the vampires in the main cast are like shady and have their own little shady dealings. And that have nothing to do with the party. So if they're just not there, some of them, it makes sense. There are other characters. If I was going to miss, because my character is the lens. They're not the most important character, but they're the character through which the audience is kind of experiencing this story, because I maintain the same character throughout multiple stories. So if I'm not there most of the time, that's going to mess things up. There will be some episodes where it's not a problem because it's focused on someone else in the party, but because I'm the Harry Potter, objectively more boring than everyone around me, but the one that everyone sees the story through, I've got to be there. So whereas many of the other characters are arguably more interesting, especially at this stage, because this is my character's early development. They're a new vampire. So arguably these other characters are way more interesting, but because they are so multidimensional, they have reasons to step away from the story that doesn't just mess up the story. Whereas I'll use my Spelljammer campaign as an example. We were all on a ship together, and we were adventuring very closely and working as a unit. So I can imagine where if we had someone who was coming in and out a lot, that there would be a lot of mental gymnastics to figure out why they weren't there in that moment. So yeah, just to, really hit home again, it's really heavily reliant on the people and the story and the characters, because all that has to align in a certain way to make it possible or not. But you can do it.
Yeah.
It's doable.
It is. The other element that I think will heavily influence whether or not, like, after your session 0 you want to go ahead, is chemistry between these 4 random people, 5 random people, however many random people you want to get in to do this online. I'm assuming, because it's, unless you can do it in person, which will absolutely add to chemistry for sure.
Yes.
However, do you know enough people near you where you
Can you set up a recording area studio?
Do you have the budget for a professional studio, because they're not cheap? And then, do people have the time to be able to commute to that place every day, every week at the same time, assuming nothing goes wrong?
And will that affect turnout?
Correct.
Because getting a working person to log on after their shift onto the internet, infinitely more reliable, because things happen with work. I'm not saying a person isn't reliable, but because things happen with work, infinitely more reliable than being like, show up to this place at 6 p.m.
Absolutely. You've also got then the task with explaining to them that they're not just playing a game, they're performing. And these may be people who have never performed in their lives. The whole thing with the differentiate between actual play and regular play, like your home game and the things you see online, are people are giving it their all to entertain. They are role-playing with everything that they've got to make you feel something. Not because it's just what their character is feeling at that point. They're digging deep and having a strong opinion generally about everything, so that the story progresses in a way that is entertaining and fulfilling for somebody watching it. You will find the actual plays that tend to fall by the wayside and maybe don't get as many viewers, but I'm sure are very, very satisfying for the people playing, don't have that performance element. It's people sort of sat, very quiet, very still, just sort of saying, I guess I hit him with the sword again. There's no movement, dynamicness. There's no maybe charisma within the group that makes you fall in love with them as a watcher. So
people forget sometimes that it's not about just playing a home game with friends.
Yeah.
It is performing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why are you broadcasting it?
Yes.
It's easier not to. It is infinitely easier not to create an actual play if you just want to chill around the table with your friends and have a relaxing evening. And I think I'm going to just for a second. I think some performers, I think some players of actual play miss that memo because they're not the ones putting the work in.
Yeah.
The producer is, or the GM is, and so they don't realize how much work is going in it. And they're like, why can't I just not turn my camera on today?
Yeah. It's watching, if you look at some of the more successful actual plays, so for example, let's look at Oxventure or High Rollers, right? UK based. These are people who aren't just doing a home game. These are presenters. These are voice actors. These are professional in their own right entertainers. And then you look at some of the smaller ones, maybe who haven't necessarily. I couldn't even name you one at this point, which is really sad of me, because I am a corporate shill. But if you look at them, sometimes there are some really great ones out there, and there are ones where they're just like, someone told this guy that he was funny once. And now he has the most basic ass campaign streaming to 3 people, and he's annoyed and he's ranting on Twitter somewhere that like he's not getting numbers and he doesn't know why he's not invited to all of the things, and it's like, bro, it's because you're not putting the effort in that these other people are.
You're missing an element. Now,
Yes.
I will say, if it is, for whatever reason, if it's fun for you to broadcast it and you don't care that you're broadcasting to people, do it.
Yeah.
Have fun. Do it. But it's that sort of cognitive dissonance of, well, I'm broadcasting my game. Why isn't it Critical Role?
Yes.
Well, because okay, if you really want to break it down, not that they started with all this, but, you know, company sponsorships, studios, professional actors, voice actors and TV actors,
professional lighting, professional mics,
professional lighting,
audio engineers. You've got producers, directors, and scripters working behind the scene.
Yep.
Dimension 20 looks really fucking nice on this. That Zakayama's writing that shit behind there, and you don't see him doing it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
There is so much money going into these things.
Why do you think? Because the thing is that, like, okay, so I will use. I think I'm going to say nothing but good things, but I'll still keep it anonymous. But one of the companies I'm with, they average about 50 viewers, and I will say that what they have put into that, I mean, I would say what they've put into it is probably commensurate with more than 50, but the fact is just that there's, unless you get very, very, very lucky, there is an income cap, you know, in that the amount that you put into this stream. I mean, you can't just throw money at it. You have to know where to put the money in and what to invest in and who to hire and So there's all. I'm not just saying if you throw money at something, it's going to get better. But I am going to say that, like, it is difficult, not impossible, but difficult to push past certain milestones without not only a major investment, but a team behind you. And it is difficult to get a team for free.
Yes.
So it's, you know, it's incredibly respectable. The heads of this company put a lot of time and effort into it, to the point where they were doing full-time work with this company for a while and had to reassess their own lives and take on different work. And so it has become more of a hobby stream since then, because the heads had to be realistic about what they could do with this and what they could do with their own, with what we were making on Patreon and what we made from Kickstarters and once you put the money from the Kickstarters into the physical things that were promised and so on and so forth, what's left over? What do you have?
Yeah.
So the thing with an actual play is that recording your home game with your buds and expecting, I don't think a lot of people doing that are expecting to be Critical Role, but expecting to suddenly have 200, 300, 400 followers or viewers is not feasible. It's not impossible, but it's not likely.
There is a podcast, so not an actual play, but not a video. Not a video actual play. What am I talking about? The word for the visual
audio.
It is video. My brain has just decided that.
Okay.
Why
Yeah.
would we be friends today? Stream. Thank you. So not a stream, a podcast.
CJ coming in with the win.
Jesus Christ, I do this for a living sometimes. So the there is a UK-based podcast, actual play series, who is exactly that. And you will see them at all of the cons, and you will see them at all of the meetups, and you will see them everywhere. And they have, and I'm not joking, less than 50 Patreon members. They don't have the money for it. They don't have the views for it. They don't have the following for it. And I'm looking, usually whenever we go to these cons and seeing them there and going, how the goddamn hell are they affording it? They are pouring their own savings into making this thing float. They're not... What kills me about it is it probably could be a really good podcast and a good actual play series. The only issue is they've not got the expansion within them as well. They're not looking at getting in other guests. They're not looking at more than just the thing they're doing. It's this one actual play and nothing else. And so it only appeals to people that
niche market.
Exactly, and that niche market is already saturated to fuck.
Oversaturated. Yep.
It's D&D, so so that's exactly the same thing that every other guy who's got an actual play going is doing. So it kills me to think that they could be doing so much more, and they haven't recognized that actually if they were just to diversify a little bit, just to maybe to spring out into something else, find a niche, go somewhere else, like that could work. But the amount of money that they are throwing at it clearly, and it not working, and them not getting that, feels like a waste.
Right, because starting any business or trying to push any product or anything like that, the problem isn't just having the money, it's knowing where to allocate it.
Yep. If they hired in a producer director with any sort of experience in the industry, I have no doubt they'd be up at the top of the charts and we'd be hearing about them nonstop. The issue is that they're throwing it into themselves and going, our business is great, our model is fantastic, we just need more people to notice our horrible Rolly banner, and they think that that's enough, and it just isn't. Like it used to be. I'm sure it used to be back in the day. It's not anymore. You've got to be smart about it
because we're in an oversaturated market.
Correct.
There seems to be a lot of somewhat invisible labor around these, and obviously like it's so obviously a lot of the visible labor is done by the players, the game runner, and sometimes like there are people of the production company that are very present. There's obviously, as you say, there are people who make the templates that you're watching via Twitch, so it's not just some screens bunched together. People are making custom art for all the characters. People are in the chats moderating. People are doing the editing for all the podcasts. There are people producing, and because to part the curtain here, obviously this podcast is recorded by us, and it's produced by me and edited by me, so that's a lot of my personal time, and sometimes because of all the editing I don't do a good job at the producing side or getting more guests in, and it is a lot of time. But with an actual play, it's a production, it's a literal theatre of which you have to produce with as small a team as possible to an audience that may or may not be there, on sometimes on platforms that aren't always as reliable at trafficking things towards you. So there's a lot of things that you have to bear in mind.
That reminds me, platforms. The platform that you choose to put the actual play on. From what you watch already, Sam, what would you choose to put this Nu Avalon game on?
So my brain goes to...
Don't you dare! Don't you fucking dare!
What did you say?
Mastodon,
yeah.
Sorry, Sam, please go ahead.
Furious. CJ, I'm furious.
I think that my first instinct is Twitch, and then like maybe YouTube Live.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what other options there are that would also have latent traffic, because I have a lot of accounts for various of these things, and sometimes if it's on a service that I don't use regularly, the momentum to carry me through to watch that would have to be ginormous for me to overcome. Right, I've got a whole new thing, I'm just following them on this, and I don't really check anything else out in that sphere. But I already have a Twitch account.
Website to see a new episode or something. And there are some programs that will cross broadcast at the same time for you. Which is helpful.
Yes.
But you look like you had some good input on this, Jess.
So, as somebody who works with YouTube for a living, they have a much harsher ad split than most other platforms. Live streaming doesn't pull in ads, so they are not going to pay a lot for a live stream. They will, however, pay for the premiere essentially, and the upload that you have after that. But the live stream itself is only going to get you a cap amount of money. Once it's uploaded, then you have to put adverts in at every goddamn 5 minutes, which really breaks it up. Twitch has become really impossible to work with for creators that are monetized, of course. With all of these platforms, you have to reach a certain level of followers before you can monetize anything. So at this point, you're doing everything for free unless you've got the support of your loyal fans and followers that you have gained from breaking your back and putting as much out on social media as you can, and assuming that your stuff doesn't get taken down or reported or trolls pile on or that you get DDoSed or anything like that. So after all of that, you're now on some of the platforms, and you are getting paid on Twitch. I believe the last split was, let's assume that you've gotten that 25-75, I believe is the last split, something like that.
75 to Twitch.
I believe it's 75 to Twitch, and don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong. It might be the other way around. But I saw 75-25 recently, and we decided to not go with a bunch of projects for that reason. But I'm not entirely sure. On YouTube, your revenue is negligible until you start earning like $1 million a video. And if you are assuming that you're putting one video out every month, you need to be hitting between 100,000 and 500,000 views for it to become a sustainable living for one person. So that's that. Oof. And that's not like lots of money. That's like and then of course
it's like a modest income. Twitch now on subs, Twitch splits 50-50. But you're not gonna, I mean, you're gonna get money on subs, especially if you're a big channel, but you're not gonna make, what you're making a lot off of is ad revenue. And I can get back to you on the split on that, but it's not, I don't think it's as nice as 50-50.
I have seen a lot more actual plays relying on tertiary sites like Patreon and Ko-fi to kind of buoy the market and generate a kind of like an in club of fans that are giving you a more stabilized income.
Which you can absolutely afford to do if you've got the hype behind you and if people are very excited and are willing to pay for the next episode. Because, again, you're in a market massively oversaturated and there's 1,000 other things out there for free. If you're providing a unique experience that people want to come back and see the next episode of week after week after week, then Patreon, Ko-fi, using them as paywalls, that makes sense. Get paid for what you're making. Kick is another one that's come up in the charts recently, and that's a 90-10 split to you, as opposed to they've paid huge streaming creators massive multi-million deals to start streaming on there. It does seem like there's something weird going on behind that iron curtain though, because I think it was Asmongold or Aiden Ross or one of the white boys beginning with A that streams signed a $100 million deal and then didn't stream for 2 weeks and they kicked him off and cancelled the deal. And that feels like a lot of money to throw away over not stream. I think you have to hate Kick in order to really do that, and I'm wondering what Kick has done. So there's that entire side of it.
Although I guess and I'm just pulling stuff out of my butt, but it could have just been a personal situation for him. Like, and people have different levels of what's worth what, I guess. So, I won't immediately say, but, it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. If they're willing to pay for XQC and Amaranth, then, cool. They're clearly going for the top streaming title, and I wish them all the luck in the world with those revenue splits. God damn, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I hope they can maintain it and that they're not just giving those revenue splits until they get people in.
Yeah, it might be, but we will see. We will see what happens, and then after that, you've got to keep the hype in your community going. So you've got to get that Discord up. You've got to make sure that you're in there, engaging, left, right, and center, and then you've got to deal with the people that really, really, really put a nail in the community. They are a thorn in the side sometimes, and these are the people that will drag you to hell and back over the smallest things. It is these are community members, and we've all been in Discords. We all know who I am talking about. These are people that are clearly unhinged and just want to cause trouble, and that for the people that are running the Discords and who it represents, they can tear down an entire industry by just saying the wrong thing at the wrong time and then later trying to apologize for it. It's not great. You are if you are attempting to put out an actual play for fun, highly recommend it. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. If you're trying to put out an actual play and then make something of it and make it your career and do everything, you're balancing on a knife edge constantly.
Yeah, at the moment it's scary. I think something that strikes me, and this is just a personal aside, is that I left cosplay at the height of it being in this situation, and then I joined up with TTRPGs.
Oh,
fuck me.
God.
Well, I'm doing it all over again. I do not know why. I've loved
Glutton for
TTRPGs
punishment.
since I was 11, but something about this, I guess, the stage prior to this, and then subsequently this stage of development in something, cultural zeitgeist is apparently appealing to me, because this is the second time I've ended up square in the middle of it going, what the hell? But here we are.
There's a wonderful... I think what's really enraptured me is that there's a real... When you get a group of people who are going along with something as a joint venture, as a unified IP, it's such a wonderful thing to follow. I know when I was listening to... when I was traveling around a lot for work, I was listening to old episodes of Critical Role, and just listening to people and reading their fan theories or understanding the world building and feeling a belonging to that.
Yeah.
And cosplay has so much like hard work put into that, and it's kind of like at the entry level you're like, oh, that's cute, but like when you go in and you really like you start making things and you're learning hard skills to develop like your cosplay further, you get to like meet people on a similar tier. You go, that's a really hard thing to pull off. It looks seamless, but you've done it really well, and you can understand, and then you can have kind of in-group talks. And I think that's one of the things that really attracts me to actual plays are the communities. And I think that's, I think without the community, it's does a tree, in the forest with no one around, if a tree falls down, does it make a sound? If there's not a community around an actual play or something, is there a story or is there an affect? And I would argue possibly. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's a different, slightly more positive. If you're not looking to make this your career, we are in a era where we want to be entertained 24/7. Many of us, not all of us, but many of us focus better when there's something on in the background that we enjoy, but like we can kind of flip back and forth. Twitch and other streaming platforms are a great place for this.
Yeah.
Because you can just, as soon as the show that you're ending or you're watching is finishing up, either you can flop to another channel that you have followed, or they'll raid someone and you'll find someone new that you enjoy. And you can kind of be just offering that little bit of support to people running these things while you get that nice, happy buzz background noise and you might just get into it. You might find, oh, actually, I'm really kind of enjoying this. And then you've got that really pleasant surprise. Or you find that you really like the person who's streaming that video game, or some of the people in the home game that they're broadcasting, and you can chat with them in the chat and you've made a friend. So there is community for it. The thing is that because it is so saturated, it is finding the piece of the pie, whether that pie is the making money and making it a career pie, or just finding your niche in the community. And so it's not easy, but if you're willing to give it a try and you don't need it to work, it can be very rewarding.
Yeah. I think that sums it up quite nicely. Well done.
I perfect. I think we have
making anime poses.
She's got the two sort of hands to the cheeks and sort of like squeezing them. Oh, it's so cute. It's so cute.
It feels like we have a lot more to discuss on this subject.
Yeah.
So I think I will go away. I will ruminate on this idea of the actual play, whether it'll exist or not is up for debate. But it's just kind of leading people through this process.
Yeah, if you could come back to us with like a budget next time, then we'll set you right.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
yeah, absolutely. Jess, I have the budget. Yeah. Don't worry, I have the budget. It's in my hands here. You can see it on the camera.
Oh my god.
It's nothing.
Oh, a dust mite.
I was going to say that
That's more than I'm getting paid for some of the streams I'm doing.
What a lovely note to end it on.
Anyone who's listening, love you guys. I do it because I'm passionate. It's that community I was just talking about. Please don't fire me.
Go back to the bit I was just talking about.
Speaking of which, CJ, where can we find more of your stuff?
So many places somehow, for some reason. But if you want to make this easy on yourself, go to my Twitter pinned post. And the first comment is my schedule, and that's where you can find me on any given week for the most part. Hopefully, I will have some cool things to share with you next week as well. At the very least, you can hear some of my ramblings about writing this campaign, which I will have to be super cagey about because I'm pretty sure some of the players listen to this. So, hey guys, I'm gonna make you suffer. Have a nice day.
Sam, where can we find more of your stuff?
You are listening to the podcast that I'm editing right now, but some of Project Headphones' past work, including some live shows and stuff that we've done, can be found at projectheadphones.com.
Hot damn.
Jess.
You can find my hot nonsense over on Zitter, Twitter, X, Y, Z, whatever they call it these days, at Dr. Bees. And that's pretty much where I live. I don't really go anywhere else. I'm over on Instagram at JulaHoop. When I'm not doing this or, the thing that pays my bills, I am a producer for Three Black Halflings, the podcast about diversity, equality, and inclusion that just takes adventure to a whole new level. It's brilliant. Jasper, Jeremy, and Liv are three of the most incredible co-hosts, and they just get it done. So I highly recommend going to check them out. They have a bunch of actual plays, and not for nothing, and I will say it now, follow Three Black Halflings before things drop. I'm just going to say that. No, I'm just going to say that and leave it there because I can't say anything else. So yeah, follow Three Black Halflings. They're on Twitter. They're on Instagram. They're a brilliant bunch. Go send them some love. They're all over the place. I love them a lot. Jeremy, Liv, Jasper, if you're listening, I love you. I love you so much.
They're just out of the room now. They're with us tonight.
And if you've got time as well, follow Paul Foxcroft at Paul Foxcroft and Questing Time at Questing Time Comedy, the stream that I sometimes help on, generally hinder. They're great. But yeah, that's me.
Perfect.
Oh, and you can find my new one shot TTRPGs cheese. TTRPG.
cheese.
Fucked it.
It's
it
so
at the
weird,
last...
Jess. I think it's breaking up. I think it's breaking up. So I really wish we could get whatever that bit is.
How do you conceal a tiny horse? You mascarpone. Oh, she's ending it with a cheese pun. It was a cheese podcast the entire time. Fuck yeah.
My Havarti can't take it. That was really bad.
I was already at 3, and now we rock a 4. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for listening to our show. At the Table has been a Project Headphones production. You can see more of our work over at projectheadphones.com. To get in contact with the show, please email attetable@projectheadphones.com. Remember to rate, review, and share amongst your friends. It's the best way we can get the show out there and do bigger and better things. Due to the nature of Twitter, Zitter, Minutter, we are going to be slowly migrating over to a better social media site. We do have some presence on Mastodon, but it's not really being picked up. Much like everyone else, we're just waiting on a blue sky invite. So if you have those, feel free to send an invite over. We will gladly pick it up. But yes, thanks for being patient with us whilst we had a mini break. We've got a lot of big plans going forward, and we're excited to take you on the journey with us. So yeah, thanks for sticking by. It means a lot. Our music was Captain Scurvy by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attributions 4 license at creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4. Thank you and roll well.
Hi, listeners. Did you know that in Canada you can get your milk in bags?
I did know that! I
Bag
fucking
milk.
knew this! It's so weird! It's so weird! And you have a little jug that you put the milk bag in, which is just a fucking redundant step by that point. Like, why would you not just put it...
Why not take your jug to, like, maybe have, like, a refill station?
Yes!
Where you just take your jug.
Or just sell it in fucking jugs! Why do you need a jug?
I like the idea of bag milk. I like the
You
idea
don't.
that you've just got a reusable jug and you can just pop that thing in and go.
Yeah, but is the milk coming in plastic? Because then I feel like it sort of defeats the purpose a little bit.
Have you ever, like, sat on a waterbed? Or have you ever held an ice pack that has melted?
Yes.
That's your milk. That's your milk. That's what you put in your tea, on your cereal, on everything, right? And you have to navigate the milk. What other products do you have to navigate? Like, the feel of it is so wrong. Liquid should not belong in that form
How
unless
about
frozen.
then, Jess? We hollow out a wheel of brie and fill it with milk.
Oh, what? No. What?
Where the
No.
fuck are you going? What kind of...
Hey, hey, listeners, did you know that in America you can get your cheese in a can?
The cat!
See, that makes sense. What CJ said was like a fact that tacked onto what we were talking about before, and then Sam comes in with a hard left and just goes, milk in a fucking wheel of brie. Like that's normal, like that happens literally anywhere.
You can
No.
pour the milk out and then you've got a wheel of brie.
But
It's a
hollow
win-win.
out,
But you have to
though.
pour the milk in to pour the milk out. What are you talking about? What kind of whimsy have we just done? Like, where are we?
Here I am, fully grounded in reality where we have easy cheese. And Sam's in like a fantasy universe where like, what if the brie wheels were filled with milk? And it's just so lovely and just so far away from the hellscape that we live in, Sam. I'm sorry, there's not gonna be any milk in brie wheels anytime soon.
I'm just waiting for blue milk. I'm just waiting for blilk.
They have it at Galaxy's Edge. It's pretty
No
good.
way.
Yep.
I'm
Okay.
right. I vote that
Anyway.
we just scrub the podcast of all TTRPG facts, and for like several hours at a time, all we do is interrogate CJ about dairy.
Bucky's out the
I'm
table.
gonna need-
It's
I'm gonna
now
need, like-
surprise fromage.
I need to call in backup. I need to call James in for backup because he has so many food facts.
I just feel like this is our calling, guys. I
Yeah.
know that we are avid TTRPG players, but today, du fromage.
I feel like there's gotta be some TTRPG that has to do with cheese. God.
TTRPGs. TTRPGs! How have we... at the
Call
table
Grant.
is dead.
Call Grant.
TTRPGs.
I started looking because I've got Grant Howitt stuff, and I was like, Grant has to have a TTRPG with cheese. Not in the first pack, but that does not say that it doesn't exist. I feel like it does.
I'm gonna message him, just like, I'm gonna find some contact info and message him and just be like, sir, have you considered?
No, I think we should make the game, then message him, and then release it.
With your blessing, may we release this horror up onto the world?
At one point, a group of us conceptualized a LARP about being mice trying to take cheese. It was very interesting.
That sounds cute as hell.
It does sound kind of cute, and I hope someday it becomes a reality.